No need to fear, Raider Nation. I'm here where the autumn winds blow 12 months out the year. What's good? What's good? It's your boy Severe Raider. And yesterday we had the first round of the 2023 draft, and I am here to give you my thoughts. This was the first round pick of the Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler era. In case you guys didn't see who we selected, it was Tyree Wilson, defensive end / edge out of Texas Tech, excuse me. And man, I only have one word to describe this pick, man. One word, and that word, underwhelming, man. Underwhelming. And I don't have a problem with the prospect. That's not how I'm judging this pick, right? I like the prospect. He's a high upside guy. And I like that, right? He's probably, of all the edge rushers in this class, he probably has the highest upside of any of them, right? He was the Anthony Richardson of edge rushers, per se. But when I'm looking at a pick and when I'm grading a pick, there are several variables to consider, several factors, several criteria. You always got to look at the player, right? You got to look at the player because you look at, that's who you're getting. That's who's going to be on your team. That's going to be on your roster. You look at the value, right? And so far he's checking the boxes for me. He was good value. He was a projected top 10 pick, and he's a good player. But then you also have to look at who else was on the board when you were picking. You look at the depth of the position that you picked and whether or not it was a team need and how much of a team need it was. And when I'm looking at our roster, you always need pass rushers, right? Pass rusher is always a need. I don't care how many sacks you got as a team the previous year, how good your edge rushers are. Eventually, if they keep producing, they're going to make more, or they're going to demand more than you may be willing to pay. And there may be another team out there willing to pay them more. And, if you don't have that next guy in line ready, then you're in some trouble. So I always, pass rush is always a need, no matter what. I don't care who you are. But in this particular class, and for this particular team, I believe defensive tackle was more urgent of a need. And this is not a deep defensive tackle class, right? That as evidenced by guys like Kalijah Cansey going slightly higher than I think he should have gone. Guys like Mozzie Smith going much higher than I think he should have gone. But then you got the edge in this class, right? And Tyree Wilson is an edge. This is a deep edge class, man. This edge rushers in this class, it is deep. You see that. That's why, Nolan Smith went later than most people projected. Myles Murphy went lower than most people projected. So then you have a convergence of these things, right? You have a position that I feel is a greater need in defensive tackle. It's also, you got to look at the player. Jalen Carter is, bar none, the best prospect in this class. The defensive tackle class is not deep in this class. And then you select an edge in a deep edge class on a team where your two highest paid defenders are edge guys. So it's just, you look at all that and I can't be 100% on board with this selection. Even if I don't find fault with the player, right? Tyree Wilson didn't select himself, right? And I'm rooting for the guy. I think he has the potential to become an elite NFL pass rusher, an elite defensive player. He has the traits. And but I just think you look at Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter is a generational talent. On the Georgia defense that is churning out first round picks on the defensive line, right? You had Jordan Davis, you had other defensive tackle, I want to say Wyatt. His name escapes me right now. Travon Walker was the #1 pick last year. Nolan Smith was a first-round pick this year as well. And Jalen Carter was clearly better than all of those guys. Ask anybody, and they will tell you that. He is the best defensive prospect to come along since Nick Bosa, and I have him higher than Nick Bosa. He's the best defensive tackle prospect to come along since Quinnen Williams, and I think he is better than Quinnen Williams. And I love Quinnen Williams. Matter of fact, I was so mad at the Raiders that season because we won a meaningless game against Denver late in the year, and that cost us an opportunity to draft Quinnen Williams, and that's why we ended up with Clelin Ferrell. Need I say more? But I digress. You look at those things, right? And in my opinion, Jalen Carter was the clear choice. He's a guy that's been an elite defensive player on an elite defense that's won the national championship twice. So I feel that he was an easy no-brainer selection. I know he has some off-the-field stuff, but his production is so great that I think it outweighs any off-field concerns that you have. I think the off-field concerns were overblown in my opinion, and I'm not going to let years of elite production. I'm looking at an elite physical specimen. I'm not going to let, a bad few months, even though they were very bad, I'm not going to let that change my mind or scare me away from drafting a guy who I think is going to be the best at his position within the first 2-3 years of his career. So I mean that's part of what goes into my grade when it comes to Tyree Wilson. But let's get into Tyree Wilson, right? This is a guy that we selected. All of you guys, I'm sure you guys want to know what my thoughts and opinions are if you're watching this video, so let me give it to you. First of all, start with the strengths. Dominant physical traits, dominant physical attributes. Guys like 6'7", 270, 36-inch arms, strong at the point of the attack, a constant motor. Guy is, never gives up on the play. Doesn't have elite quickness or acceleration, but once he gets up to speed, he has very good speed, especially for a guy his size. He has good lateral movement. He's a guy that you can run stunts with. So if you want to run some games with him and a D tackle, if you can do that, right? You can do that because he has the athleticism that allows you to do that. Not a guy that is just an edge, right? He's also very, very physical and very good in the run game also. The guy had elite production at the college level. He was just, dominant. He was dominant. And so I think that's what the Raiders saw, right? A guy with, you see all these traits. It's a guy that is big, arm length, great, very strong, works hard, going to be one of the hardest workers in practice. He's going to be one of the guys that, he brings up the level of practice because he's going to be working so hard that, the guys that are working with him or working next to him, they don't want to, look like they're, dogging it or not giving their max effort. So he's a guy that's a lot like Crosby in that sense, right? He's a guy that loves the game, high character, goes 1,000% in practice, knows he needs to get better and wants to get better. When you have those physical traits combined with a great work ethic, I think that is the recipe for a very, very good player. So I think that on that aspect, I have no problem with the selection. I think he's a guy that can work, and hopefully he will work. Some areas of concern First of all, I'll start with that level of competition. The Big Ten is not, I mean, not the Big Ten. The Big 12 is not exactly known as, you know, a place where they're churning out pro prospects. So he was bigger, stronger than most of the people he faced. That won't necessarily be the case in the NFL. You know, if you're looking for player comps, I've heard Matt Judon. I've heard Ziggy Ansah, or Ezekiel Ansah, is a guy that a lot of Raider fans know, because he's a player that a lot of Raider fans wanted us to draft some years back. I forgot who we ended up taking in that class. Was that the Rolando McClain draft? I can't recall. But he's a guy that, you know, a lot of Raider fans, especially older Raider fans, are familiar with. Oh, was that the Deion Jordan? I think that was the Deion Jordan draft too. Oh, man, I'm pretty sure that was the Deion Jordan draft too. But so no, that wasn't the Rolando McClain. I think that's the year we drafted the cornerback with the heart issue, whose name escapes me right now. It was Reggie McKenzie's guy. We traded back with Miami that year. I can't think of the corner right now. He ended up going to the Jags. Name escapes me, but I digress. So a lot of Raider fans are familiar with Ziggy Ansah. You know, similar physical traits to him. I've heard him compared to Carlos Dunlap. I see a little bit of all of those guys in Tyree Wilson. If you're looking for a body comp, the guy who I comp in terms of his body and a little bit of his style as well, I don't think Tyree Wilson is going to beat this guy, because this guy had, you know, some other off the field issues he was dealing with. But David Irving. If you look at David Irving, he's a guy that is just bigger and stronger than everybody on your team. You know, him and Tyree Wilson are both first guy off the bus type guys, right? And David Irving had the tools. He spent a little time with us. People know him, you know, from his time with the Cowboys. If you haven't seen David Irving, tell me, watch David Irving, then look at Watch David Irving and look at Tyree Wilson, and you'll see what I'm talking about in terms of their body comp, right? They're very, very similar in terms of body comps. Big, strong, like arm lengths out of this world type guys who just play strong, right? And so that's kind of my comp to him when I'm looking at. And if you get David Irving at his best, David Irving was a guy that he played some outside, he played some inside as well. If you get like David Irving at his best, when he was like on, that guy was a problem. That's why a lot of us were very happy when he came over to the Raiders. Fortunately, it didn't work out. But for as much tools as Tyree Wilson has, he lacks that refinement. He's a guy that, first off, his get off is not great, right? His get off is not great. He is consistently, you know, very slow off the line of scrimmage. And we have Max Crosby, who was consistently one of the first guys off the line of scrimmage. So hopefully, you know, those two can get together and Max can help him work on that aspect of the game. But a lot of times, if Tyree isn't the last person off the ball, he's one of the last people off the ball. And you cannot consistently do that in the NFL and hope to win. Another thing is that he doesn't have a wide repertoire of pass rush moves. Generally, he has, you know, he long arm guys. He has a good bull rush, very good bull rush. And he had a little bit of a swim move. Wasn't that great, but a little bit of a swim move. One of the things he needs to do is he needs to rush with the plan, right? He's just going. He's just playing hard. And there you could tell, like, the great pass rushers have a plan in place. They know what they want to do, and then they go out and execute it. And they also have counter moves, which is something he lacks. Once he gets blocked, he generally stays blocked. Now, he's still giving effort, but it's ineffective effort at that point, right? He's not once they get their hands on him, he's not really consistently getting those guys off of him. He doesn't set guys up. So, you know, the best pass rushers in the league, you know, it's a game of rock, paper, scissors, right? If they think, you know, make the guy think you're going to bull rush him, and then you swim him, or, you know, you you rip them, or you set the guys up, or you fake, you go outside and spin inside. Like it's a game of rock paper scissors, right? You got to keep them guessing. Not knowing what you're going to do. Keep them off balance. He's not great at that. Generally, he's going straight through you, and a lot of times he has the strength, and he's quick enough once he gets going where he can beat you to the B gap, but that's after he gets going. He can beat a guy to the B gap, especially if they're not expecting him to go to B gap. They're expecting the bull rush, and then he beats him to B gap. Though that's some of the times where you can see, okay, he's kind of learning some stuff, and he's just such a physical presence. This is one thing I like about him. I know I'm kind of all over the place, but he's such a physical presence that guys don't know what to do with him. And in order to block him, you really have to have great technique, because he's so strong, and his arm length is so long that once he gets hands inside, he extends and locks, it's over for you. It's done. Play finished. So guys they don't know how to deal with that. They don't know what to do. You got this basketball player coming at you with all this strength, and once he gets ahead of steam, he's fast too. So a lot of times that takes guys out of their technique. They get sloppy, and he wins that way. But I will say that he's a guy that he can slide inside. He can play inside. He can play outside. Not a guy that should stay inside, but he can do a little bit of both. So he does offer some position versatility, and just having a third down pass rush lineup of Max Crosby, Tyree Wilson, and let's say Jerry Tillery. I don't know who else they'll use, that other guy, and then Chandler Jones. I think that can cause some issues. And I know why the Raiders picked him. Even though he's raw, he needs some work on his hands. He doesn't have a lot of bend, can't really run the arc. He like I said, the get off is not there, but all those other physical traits are there, and he's just a ball of clay. And Patrick Graham is a guy who has a history of being a defensive line coach. I believe he started with the Patriots as a defensive line coach. And I think he went to the Giants as a defensive line coach, and then I think he went to the Dolphins as a D coordinator, and then he came back to the Giants as a D coordinator. I believe that's what it was. But he has a history at playing, coaching defensive line. I believe he played defensive line in the Ivy League. He sees a guy like that with all those tools, with that work ethic, and he's like, yo, give him to me. I will make it happen. And I'm hoping he does. But my gut just tells me to some of those, some of that polish, some of that's missing, that could be his downfall. And I don't want to compare these guys directly because they're different, but we drafted Alex Leatherwood. He's a guy that also had all the traits, right? All the physical traits. Big guy, arm length was great. His athletic scores were good. Athletic scores better than good. I believe he was since I've said in the previous video, since the 80s, he was top 20 in terms of his athleticism for offensive tackles, right? He's a guy that when we initially picked him, I hated the pick. Damn near broke my remote throwing it. I was so mad about the pick. And then I spent months and months defending the pick because of all those traits, and because I was hoping against hope, I guess, that we would be able to do something with a player that had those physical traits, and we just never were, right? If you look at Alex Leatherwood's physical traits, they're very similar to Ike Ekwonu, the guy that I believe went to the Panthers. He was the second tackle drafted, I believe, last year. Very similar physical traits. Alex Leatherwood was better than him in a lot of areas. Played against better competition. Won an Outland Trophy for the best, lineman in the nation. But despite all that, he was missing that something. And I fear that will be the case with Tyree Wilson as well. I'm rooting for the guy. He's a Raider. I bleed silver and black. If he hits, we got something. This also allows us to get off Chandler Jones and that contract. And it gives us a young guy who can, like I said, slide inside, rush the passer on third down, so we can get another edge, on the field, whether that be Chandler Jones, whether we keep developing Malcolm Kuntz, or whether we grab somebody else. Like I said, this is a very deep edge class. So that's pretty much my thoughts on Tyree Wilson. If I had to give it a grade, I give him, as a prospect, I give him an 8. If I were to grade the pick, I said it before, man, I give it a 6.5, just because of who we passed up, the position that we passed up, and it being a position of urgent need, in my opinion. The second round is upon us. Let me know what you guys think we will do. Still a lot of good prospects left on the board. Joey Porter Jr. is still there. Drew Sanders is still there. Dan Henley's still there. Will Levis is still there. Hendon Hooker is still there. And those two quarterbacks that people thought might slide into the back end of the first round. A lot of people had Will Levis as a top 10 pick. A lot of people had Will Levis going to us. So if he's there, what do we do? There's also some very interesting tight ends still left. There's a couple receivers that are good that are still left. Some very good offensive linemen that are still left. So, man, it's interesting, man. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you think I'm an idiot, if you think I'm right. If you want to reserve judgment. Let me know what you think we'll do in the second round. What is the biggest position of need left? If we have Hendon Hooker and Will Levis still there, do we grab one of those guys? I believe DJ Turner is still there. Do we grab DJ Turner? Do we draft Joey Porter Jr.? You guys let me know what you think, man. Severe Raider out. You guys enjoy the draft, and stay safe.